So, Minneapolis is in the midst of a fourth day of unrest as protesters continue to call for charges to be filed against the officers involved in the death of George Floyd. It was quite a night last night. Protesters took to the Minneapolis Police Department's 3rd precinct. They set it on fire. That is where the officers worked. That building is completely destroyed. The city's mayor has backed calls for charges against the officer as well. So CBS News digital journalist Brandy Kellum joins us now. You have been there all night long, Brandy. We're showing video now of the building, the precinct, up in flames. Tell me what you were seeing and hearing on the ground. Tell me what that was like.
Well, I can say, the experience here has been very shocking and eye-opening. Seeing the images of the precinct burning down, protesters and, demonstrators, taking control of the building. It was a very scary experience. Even yesterday, earlier than that, as we were in that particular shopping center, people were still out there running into buildings and taking things all day. There was really no control of the situation, and just to see that it's escalated to this point, it's not surprising, but also it is a little, it's very scary to see that.
Mm-hmm. Brandy, describe, now that the National Guard has moved in, what the vibe on the ground feels like, because I know in covering other protests like this, for example, in Ferguson, that when the National Guard and the military moves in, things tend to calm down a little bit. Are you seeing some of that, or do you expect that tensions will still be high, especially as we move towards evening?
I'm not seeing anything fizzling out anytime soon. I've actually spoke to a lot of demonstrators here, and even though they feel like this situation has gotten out of control, they're still positive about trying to rally people together and make this a more peaceful situation. There's a planned rally and demonstration later on this afternoon that I'm also planning on attending. That will have a couple of high-profile celebrity guests. Former NBA player Steven Jackson will be there. So obviously it doesn't appear to be a situation where, while certain things have gotten out of control, there are more peaceful demonstrators that want to continue to push the agenda forward. And the overall message has been very clear here, which is they want the arrest of all 4 officers. They want them jailed with no bail, and they want a conviction. Obviously, some of the tension here is also due to the fact that the community has no confidence in the county attorney. And I've heard that from several different organizers, using very strong words about his record, not convicting police against when they have instances of police brutality. But still, with that being said, the hope is that with these demonstrations, a message will be sent, a positive message will be sent, and that the city can be an example and more of a beacon of light to show that, now's the time that change is needed. And that's also been a common thread I've heard among protesters here as well.
So, Brandy, you just said 2 things that I thought were really important to sort of reinforce, right? One of the things that I said yesterday is that when you see, this level of frustration bubbling over, it's not over just one incident. It's you have to look at it in context. And so you point out that there's been sort of long simmering disappointment in the way police brutality has been treated there. And I think that's a good thing to underline. The other thing, too, is, yes, there is looting, but you talked about talking to protesters. And can you just describe, and maybe it's hard to put a percentage on it, but you've been out there in the middle of everything. There are people breaking the law that are breaking into buildings, that are destroying property. And then there are protesters. And if you could sort of figure out the percentage, how many people are out there that are peacefully protesting? I predict it's the vast majority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say so. That's a really good question. Yesterday, just seeing the protest that I attended, it was interesting to see this one particular protest where it was organized by a group of, like, a coalition of very different focused organizations here, but they all had one agenda. And that part of the protest ended, and then suddenly this ad hoc protest occurred. And I could probably say, a fair estimate, there were at least 2,000 to 3,000 people in the streets And while the official protest, was supposed to end within 2 hours of it starting, I can guarantee you it went well into the night, and people did not. I didn't hear or see any instances of violence or aggression towards the police. People were like separated in various pockets in that group of thousands, with their various rallying cries. But overall, that protest was very peaceful. And if I could put that in the context of things that have been going on around the city, I would say it seems to me that the majority of protests here have been fairly peaceful. The larger percentage have been peaceful, whereas there's a smaller group that people are growing leery about that have not. And if I could just add here, going back to what I've been hearing from the local organizations and local organizers, they have expressed very, very heavy frustration about the fact that the situation has gotten out of control. And some of them feel like they're not really blaming the young people, which is an interesting thing that I've been hearing. They're really blaming the fact that their message hasn't been gotten out to the public about trying to keep this peaceful, and they were trying to get ahead of this before more chaos occurred, and they feel like there's frustration among their group that did not happen, but they're still hopeful that they can still get people to come together, and the bigger and larger protests that have been more peaceful, they're hoping will outweigh those that have not.
All right, Brandy Callum, thank you very much, Brandy. Stay safe out there. We appreciate your reporting.